Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chiseled. And why do we call it Chiseled? Because we're all a work in progress. I'm your host. I'm Rob Commodari. I'm also the author of the book Better Than You Think and a co-authored the book Next Level Your Life. Also have this podcast, as you know, Chiseled. But today we're here with Steve Rizzo. He was once voted least likely to succeed. Steve Rizzo has been proving people wrong ever since, from a struggling student to an award-winning educator, from stellar success as a national headline comedian to a Hall of Fame keynote speaker. Steve's journey is a testament to the power of shifting one's mindset. At the pinnacle of his stand-up comedy career, having starred in his own Showtime comedy special and earning honors as a Showtime comedy all-star, Steve made a life-changing decision. He walked away. He walked away from the comedy stage to pursue his true passion, helping individuals and organizations embrace the power of attitude, humor, and perspective to achieve extraordinary results. Today, Fortune 500 companies, associations, and audiences around the globe turn to Steve for his common sense success strategies, practical tools infused with humor and heart. Steve is the best-selling author of Conversations with Bob, Motivate This, and Get Your Shift Together. You heard that right, get your shift together. And a regular contributor to Success Magazine. His message: success isn't just about reaching goals. It's about enjoying the journey, building resilience, and finding joy along the way. Steve, welcome to the show all the way from Long Island, one of my favorite spots, although I'm not from there. A lot of people think I am, but welcome to the show, Steve. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's good, great time. So I guess I want to start out just by giving some context. Like, how did you get into comedy, right? What made you say, I want to be a comedian?
Um, well, I was always funny. I was always funny in school. Um, but I would have to say, there was a time in my life, I think it was maybe a few years after high school, I was playing the guitar with a friend of mine, acoustic music, and we started performing all around the New York, Long Island, Connecticut, Jersey area. We were getting very well known. It was just the two of us, and we were really good. And in between sets, though, I would do these funny things. I do a lot of impressions, and I used to do Bob Dylan singing Elvis Presley songs and Elvis Presley singing Bob Dylan songs. And before you know it, the audience would be yelling out, "Do Sylvester Stallone singing Feelings," and it just went crazy. So it started catching on, and that was one of the reasons why we started getting a big following. And even though we were good musically, people couldn't wait until my partner, Jack, would leave. And then I would just be up there with my guitar and just making people laugh. And make a very long story short, he started partying way too much. And he eventually died from an overdose of alcohol and cocaine abuse. And I was just left by myself. And one day I was walking with my brother Rocky in New York City. We passed Catch a Rising Star, which at the time was the premier comedy club in the country, one of them. And it was audition night. And he said, "Why don't you go in and audition?" I said, "No way. I'm not doing regular stand-up. I could never do that." He goes, "Do it, do it." So I tried it. I had 7 minutes to do it, and I got a standing ovation. So then my mind just started, saying maybe I should try it. And then all of a sudden, clubs started opening up on Long Island. I went for audition night there, and I started getting work. And in a very short time, with maybe a year and a half, clubs started opening up throughout the country. It was massive. Early 80s, all through the 80s and 90s. Omaha, Nebraska, Des Moines, Iowa, all these Midwest states were having comedy clubs, more than one. And because I was fairly new in the business and they didn't have that many comics then, I was headlining clubs everywhere. And I was making a really good living. And then my name started getting known. And then that was it. Then I had a Showtime special, and Woody Harrelson introduced me as a Showtime comedy all-star. And it was quite a ride.
Wow, that's incredible. So that first night when you walked into that stand-up, that when you were walking down the streets in New York,
Yeah.
you went in and you did 7 minutes. Was that just totally ad-libbed?
I had no idea what the hell I was going to do. I had no idea. And I don't know, I just started doing impressions, and and they just started laughing. And once you get the first laugh, you know you have them.
Yeah.
You just know it. And I just kept going, and the audience really, really liked it, and I took it from there.
So that from that first night to like these all these Midwestern shows you did, how much time went by to you? Like you were like the guy.
I was considered one of what they would call a road warrior. I don't think anyone was traveling as much as I was. You know, I was going to Omaha, Nebraska, and it was so much fun because you had your other comedians, the people that opened up for me, who were right away really big stars. Drew Carey opened for me, Chris Rock opened for me, Rosie O'Donnell opened for me, Sam Kinison opened for me. This is before they were stars, by the way. This was before they were big. And it was just a trip getting to know these people. It was a party, and there were times when I was on stage saying, "I can't believe I'm getting paid for this."
I
You
was just
know?
going to ask you that question. Or did you ever like pinch yourself too in the same process?
Yeah, yeah. It was like it was. How could this be? And then something started happening, and I decided to go in another direction.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, first, before we go into that direction, like, was there a comedian you looked up to, you idolized when you first got into that business?
Yeah, George Carlin was my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
As a matter of fact, I got to know him quite well. I
Did
had very few people know this story, but it's a really cool story. When I was at the beginning of my comedy career, I was getting hassled by some of the comedians telling me I was stealing material, and I know I wasn't. And they were saying I was stealing this from that person, this from that person. I was getting very, very frustrated. And just because I was talking about the same subject doesn't mean that I'm stealing material. I'm just talking about the same subject. You know, people start talking about how many comedians talk about their parents. It doesn't mean they're stealing material.
uh-huh.
It's the same subject. You know, if you're talking
Right.
about cats and dogs, it's the same subject. So anyway, I was getting very frustrated. I was very sensitive back then too, and I was at a comedy club called the Comic Strip in Fort Lauderdale, and we were staying at what they call the Comedy Condo. That's what it would put the comedians. Really cool places. And there was a guy named Tony DeAndrea who was opening up for me, and he told me, he goes, "I can't believe you've only been doing this a year, year and a half, and you're just so established." And he said, "What are your plans?" I said, "This might be my last show. I'm going to quit. I'm not going to do this anymore." And he said, "Why?" And I told him, "I can't take the politics. I can't handle that. Just it's not worth it." So he told me he knew George Carlin, and I thought he was full of crap. And one Saturday afternoon before the Saturday show, I'm sitting in the comedy condo, and the phone rings. They didn't have cell phones then; it was a regular landline phone. And a guy named Bill, one of the comedians, answers the phone. He goes, "Steve, George Carlin's on the phone. He wants to talk to you." Oh, and yeah, right. So I pick up the phone, right? I go, "Yeah, Rizzo here." And he goes, "Steve, it's George Carlin." I went, "Yeah, right." I hung up on him.
No
You know,
way. You hung
I
up
didn't
on him?
know. I didn't know it was him. I thought it was, comedians are always pulling jokes on people. He calls me back immediately, and he said, "Let me tell you something, motherfucker." He goes, "I hope I can curse on your show." He goes, "Let me tell
well,
you something."
well, just
This is what he
moderate
said, though. Yeah.
it.
"Let me tell you something, motherfucker. You hang up me one more time, you're gonna miss an opportunity." And I realized it was him. I said, "Oh my God, George, I'm so sorry. I thought it was somebody." He goes, "Okay." He goes, "Tony tells me that you're having a problem. Talk to me." I couldn't believe it. I'm looking at the phone, and I told him. He said, "Okay, all right." He goes, "I don't have much time to talk now." He goes, "I'm at the Sands Hotel, and I'm in Atlantic City," which, by the way, is where I did my Showtime special. And he said, "You got a pad and pen?" I said, "Yeah." "Write down my Beverly Hills home. Call me next Tuesday at this time, California time." I couldn't believe he gave me his home phone number. I write it down. That Tuesday came. I called him at the exact time. He picks up. He's he says, "George here." I said, "George, Steve Rizzo." He goes, "Well, it's good to hear from you. I'm glad you called me back." So then we talked for a while, and he was telling me that he went through the same stuff, and you just got to go through it. He goes, but Tony says you're really funny. He goes, "Do you have a VHS tape of yourself?" Back in the day, that's all they had. I said,
VHS.
"Yeah, I got a whole half-hour presentation." He goes, "Will you send it to me?" I copied his address. He goes, "And I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I'm going to tell you whether I think you should stay in this business or you need a lot of work or whatever. And I'm going to let my manager, who was his wife at the time, watch it and blah, blah, blah." A couple of weeks go by and I get a letter, handwritten note from George Carlin. "Dear Steve, I looked at your video quite a few times. I showed it to my manager and my wife, and I showed it to some friends. We all agree that you are hysterical. You definitely have what it takes. If I find out that you quit, I will take a flight from Los Angeles to JFK in New York, find out where you live, knock on your door, and beat the living shit out of you. Love, Joel."
That's awesome, man.
And
That's a great story.
Here's the cool thing, Rob. He kept in touch with me until the day he died.
No kidding.
Until the day he died. Every now and then he would just call me. And it was just such an emotional vibe for me, you know?
Yeah.
And he invited me to his first HBO special at Carnegie Hall. He said, "Bring a guest," but I didn't want to bring a guest. I just wanted to go by myself. And wasn't it ironic that 3 rows in back of me, and I'm not going to mention their names because they're very famous today, they're sitting in back of me. Okay, the same guys that were hassling me about taking material.
Uh-huh.
Before the show starts, I'm sitting in primo seats. Before the show starts, a security guard gets on the stage and says, "Is there Steve Rizzo in the audience?" And I stood up and he goes, "Mr. Rizzo, Mr. Carlin, I would like to meet you after the show. And he'd like to take his wife and I would like to, and him would like to take you out to dinner after the show." I just went, and everyone started clapping. And I turned around. I looked at those guys that were giving me a hard time. I didn't look at them, but I went like this, right? And that's
Oh
how
my
I got
God.
to really know. Yeah, yeah,
Wow, that's a great story. You say you don't share that story much?
yeah. There's a lot of
Oh my
stories I have with personal stories I have with Sam Kinison and um, yeah, I have a ton of Andrew Dice Clay and
Oh, really? Wow, that's
Eddie,
cool.
yeah, Eddie Murphy. I got some wonderful Eddie Murphy stories because we started out together on Long Island. He was 18 years old, not even. He was doing comedy clubs at 17. He wasn't even allowed to be in the club, but he was doing it and he was nailing it. He was
Wow.
nailing it. And you know, yeah, I knew him quite well.
That's great, man. What a like a memory and experiences to fall back on, man. I think that's incredible. So thanks for sharing that. I was watching some of your clip stuff, and just one of them. If you could just go on this a little bit, and then we'll talk about this change in direction for you. I thought it was funny as all heck. You talked about understanding your partner or spouse. Are they funny? Are they serious? I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Do you
Oh
remember
yeah,
this at all?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I was reading an article in Oprah magazine. It was one. He became one of my bits. An Oprah magazine where the author of the article was about relationships. The key to a healthy relationship is you have to understand your partner. And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm saying it to myself, and a bit came right out right there. I said, "You can't understand a partner. You'll never be able to understand your partner. The only thing that you have to understand about your partner is that there are things about your partner that you will never understand. And if you could understand that, you will have a better understanding. Do you understand?" And then I look at the audience and I go, "Folks, I've been married to my wife for over 25 years. Till this day, I can't understand why I have to get in trouble for dreams that she had." You know what I'm talking about. You wake up in the morning, oh, it's going to be a great morning. Maybe it's going to be a great morning for you, Casanova. And you're looking at her. What did I do now? And she looks at me and goes, "Well, I just had a dream that you had an affair with another woman." And I realized the biggest mistake is what I said was, "Really? What'd she look like?" No, really,
Gosh.
I just want to know if it's the same dream I've been having. That's all.
Oh, man.
And that's when the argument started.
Oh God, that's funny. Yeah, I was watching that. I played that twice. I was like, that was so funny. I had to ask you about that. So anyway, so you did the comedy, strictly comedy for how many years?
Oh, geez, 80, 20, almost 25 years.
25 years, and then you said you had a shift.
I had to. Yeah,
And what was
and I'll
that
tell you
shift?
why. I got to tell you why. You brought something up in the introduction, and this is very important. As stated, I was voted least likely to succeed in my senior class in high school. It didn't make it to the yearbook, but I was a custodian after school. Some of the students got chosen. It was a great job, a lot of money. And after school for 4 hours, I would clean an area of the school. In my area that particular year, was my senior year, was to clean the administrative offices. And as I'm cleaning, I'm looking at these papers, stacks of papers, and perfect files. And I started reading them, and I'm realizing these are the lists that are going to be in the yearbook. And they have all the nominees: most popular, well best dressed, the most polite, class clown, most likely to succeed. And I'm looking at all the people that could be nominated. And then they had a list of least likely to succeed. And I looked at it, and I was on the list. And I went, holy, really? And it never made it to the yearbook because apparently the faculty would not allow that. Okay. So that, and the fact that when I was in eighth grade, when I was 14 years old, sitting with my mom and dad in the guidance counselor's office, he asked me what I wanted to do with my life because he was to prepare me for the rest of my school years on what I wanted to do when I graduated. And I said, I want to be a teacher. And he took a deep breath, and my father looked at him and said, but what? What's the problem? He goes, well, let's just say that Stephen doesn't have what it takes to go to college. And the sad truth was is that I believed him. So did my mom and dad. They were great parents, but they were from the old school of thought. They realized, look, he has to know what he's talking about. Look at his title, guidance counselor. If he doesn't know, who does? So not only did I let this idiot tell me what I couldn't do, I let him tell me what he thought I should do.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't those two incidences, Rob. It was so many similar incidents that formulated a belief system, which was dreams are for other people. And apparently I'm not going to be one of them. And I took those beliefs into my adult life when I left high school. And they were determining factors for many of the choices that I made. And I realized even when I was doing stand up, this is when I made the transition from stand up to comedy. I thought I had those negative labels under control because, hell, I had a Showtime special and I'm doing other TV stuff and I'm headlining clubs, theaters, colleges all over the country. And I'm thinking, okay, things are going good. But something started happening in my stand-up career. I had a top-notch management team. I had a great agency and I had top-notch publicity. But every time, this is really weird. I want your viewers to hear this. Every time I was asked to audition, my manager or my agent would be excited. We have an audition at the Comedy Store at the Improv in LA. You got to fly out. They're auditioning for TV sitcoms. They're auditioning for parts in movies. They're auditioning for commercials. And every time they said, you got to be there, I got really nervous to the point where I was scared and I made an excuse. I would say, well, I can't because I was booked solid. I'm booked in Omaha, Nebraska at the Funny Bone Comedy Club. And they're going, cancel it. We'll get someone else to take your place. You have to do this. This is why you're doing what you're doing. And I kept saying no until finally they started getting really angry at me, my team. And they had every right to. And then all of a sudden I started noticing, see, when you're auditioning for the industry people, that whole audience is nothing but industry people.
Okay.
So they represented my mind authorities. They can tell me I'm not good enough. They could tell me that. And I didn't want to hear that. Those old negative labels were coming back again.
And you were already having success.
Yeah. But in my mind, I was kidding myself. It was better for me to be a big fish in a small pond than a minnow in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's amazing how your brain can just convince you that you're doing the right thing. But then all of a sudden I started noticing Eddie Murphy, Kinison, and Chris Rock, and Rosie O'Donnell, and Drew Carey. Drew Carey was my roommate in LA. They started getting these huge breaks, and I'm wondering, why is an opportunity knocking on my door? And I'm realizing, oh my God, it has been. I was just afraid to open the door. And I got so upset. with myself. I mean, spiraled into a depression. And then after the depression was over, I decided to go on a self-help quest to better myself. I read every book that you could think of. I went on spiritual seminars. Um, I started reading the Bible. I went to Tony Robbins seminars religiously. And it was at a Tony Robbins seminar where I'm looking at him. It was in LA, and there's thousands of people in the audience. And I'm going, he's got the world in the palm of his hand. Look at him. And I took a pen and I didn't realize it. I'm writing on the pen, I can do this. All right. And all of a sudden I wrote, I should do this. 15 minutes later, I said, damn it, I'm going to do this. I still have that piece of paper.
Do you really? Wow.
Yeah. And that's when I made this pact with myself. And I started delving into how to get into the motivational business. And slowly but surely, step by step, I did. I left the comedy business. Everyone thought I was crazy. My management team was begging me to see a psychiatrist because they thought I was leaving at the pinnacle of my career. And I was. And I started doing both, but it just wasn't working. I finally had to leave. And it was the best thing I ever did.
Wow. So if I could take you back, and that's an incredible story. If I could take you back when you were doing the custodial work and you're in that office and you see that list of least likely to succeed, as soon as you saw your name on that list, what were the feelings and emotions that went through your mind and your body at that moment?
I think it bothered me, but a part of me wouldn't allow it to bother me. It really bothered me when I got out of high school. What am I going to do with my life? And every time I thought about doing something, I recall saying, I can't do that. There's no way I'm going to do that. I won't be able to do that. And the biggest turning point for me was my brother Michael, who was the biggest inspiration in my life. He was 100% disabled as a result of the Vietnam War, a gung-ho Marine. And he's the only man in medical history that ever survived the wound that he endured. And I don't have time to get into that, but he's the reason why I just excelled in life. And he defied the odds. Like I said, the only man in medical history that ever survived that wound in 7 months in the St. Albans Naval Hospital. And he went from 168 pounds to 98 pounds and finally made it to 110. He got out. And he said he was going to go to college, and we didn't think he'd be able to do it, but he did. And 2 years as he's going to college, one day he came up to me because he noticed I was hanging out with the wrong crowd. He said, hey, Steve, can you do me a favor? I said, what? He said, can you come? Why don't you go to school with me? Go to college. I said, what for? Because I don't know. Sometimes I think I'd like company, and plus, I don't know. I think you might enjoy it. I figured, okay, what the heck? I'll do that. It wasn't working. I couldn't get a job. So I went with him. And one day we're walking to the administrative office. I said, where are we going? He said, we're going to the administrative office. I said, you're going to sign up for next semester? He said, nope, I'm signing you up for next semester. And Rob, I was petrified. And I got really emotional. Picture this. I'm in the middle. It's near spring. And there's people, hundreds of people walking all around us. And I said, I can't do that. I'm not going in there. I'm not smart enough. What's the matter with you? And he grabs me. Here's this frail man, this Marine, grabbing me by my shirt. And he's yelling at me in front of everyone. He says, look at me. Look at me. I'm doing this. If I can do this, I know you can do it. And you're doing it. And I didn't argue with him. He signed me up for 4 classes. I remember it: English, history, music, and art. He said, it's 12 credits. You can do this. I went. I was petrified. After a couple of weeks, I was like, well, and I was like 5 years older than a lot of the people that were in the classes. So I knew a little bit more about life than they did. And I experienced a lot in those 5 years. And I started getting involved in the discussions, and I started to get to know my professors, and they started giving me these compliments. And you have a lot of insight in life and shit I never even knew about myself. And to make a very long story short, I graduated with high honors in degrees in English, education, minor in psychology, master's in theater arts.
Wow.
So yeah, and then I went back to the same school that I graduated from, and I became an English teacher and a counselor for kids with behavioral problems, proving once and for all that guidance counselors are not fortune tellers.
Did you ever have a conversation with that guidance counselor?
Yep. Good question. Yep. And ironically, my first year there was his last year there. He was retiring. And I decided, I'm not going to mention his name, but I decided to go into his office. He didn't know me from Adam, you know. And I told him, I said, I just want you to know. He goes, and as a matter of fact, my brother was the system principal then in that school. My Marine brother. He went from a teacher to principal to superintendent of the schools. So I just said, I just don't know if you recall, and I didn't say this to blame him. I thought he would be happy by me saying, you told me I didn't have what it takes to go to college, but I graduated with high, and I couldn't even finish my sentence. He stood up, slammed it, said, I never told you that. I never told you that. I said, yeah, you told me that. I said, I'm sugarcoating it. Now I'm starting to get angry because now I was venting,
Yeah.
And I said, I'm sugarcoating this. I said, that's what you told me. And you said it with conviction. And the sad truth is that I believed you, and my mom and dad believed you. And he asked me to get out of his office. And
Wow.
as I'm leaving, I stopped, I turned, I said, but here's the sad thing. I said, I overcame that. How many other people did you say that to who weren't as fortunate as I was to turn my life around? And I closed the door and I walked out.
And you didn't give him a chance to respond to that.
Nope.
Wow. That's crazy, man.
But I
Good for
went,
you.
but Rob, I didn't go there with the intention to blame. I thought he would be happy
Right.
that I became successful.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
And there's a
so
big message there, Steve, because it's like, okay, because how many people today, hear that same message, whether it's audibly or they see it or they're telling that it's a narrative they're telling themselves because of something that's going on around them or in the environment, and like maybe everybody else is getting attention and they're not. Well, maybe I'm not getting attention because I'm not smart enough, good enough, or whatever, right? And so the ability to overcome that takes drive, it takes confidence, it takes courage, because that's a
yeah,
scary place to be when somebody says you don't have what it takes and you say, the heck with you, I'm doing it, right?
yeah,
And for you to be able to do that at that age and then have this successful career as a comedian, and then you have to have the courage and the confidence, even though I'm sure you'll tell me this, but I'm sure there was fear in the transition from comedian to personal growth and development to keynote speaker, right? How was
yeah.
that? What was that like?
From going from what? From
From the
where?
comedian to the keynote
Oh,
speaker.
that was another fear because I left at the pinnacle of my career.
Yeah.
But I realized I was sabotaging myself, and I had to. It was a calling. Everything that I did in my life was of calling. It was the higher power within me was saying, "You did stand up to set you up to do this," and it is indeed my comedic skills that helps me to captivate the audience. It's a laugh and learn process. Today, the attention span of the average audience today, because of social media, is very minimal. And it's my comedy that helps me to grab them. They're being entertained as they're learning life strategies. But the fear was overwhelming. How could you leave something that you're great at? It's not that I wasn't doing well in stand-up. I was doing very well. As I told you, my manager wanted to sue me. Drew Carey, my roommate, he was saying, you can't leave. You're so close. And that's when it hit me. I said, so close to what? Something I don't want to do anymore. But what really concerned me is that it was a struggle going into the speaking business. And I'm looking at my opening acts, getting the big TV sitcoms, the movie deals, the commercials, they're doing everything. And so, of course, a part of me is going, what would have happened if I would have stayed? But I overcame that. And plus, all these serendipitous things has popped into my life. And that's the thing. If you believe in yourself and if you believe in that higher power, life has a way of throwing synchronicity at you. And it's like amazing when it happens. It's unexplainable. You can't even express the way that it feels, the way it happens.
Yeah, I understand that. I do. So with those, you talk about serendipity, you talk about that feeling. What was you had that calling? How did you know it was a calling? What did it feel like? Was it
Okay.
a sign? Was it
Yeah, it
an
was a sign.
emotion?
It was a
Okay.
sign. It was God slapping me in the back of the head and saying, here's the answer of your prayer. Um, when I left LA, I was living in LA part of the year. My home was in Wading River, Long Island. I was married at the time. And as I said, my roommate was Drew Carey. And I was really seriously delving into the motivational thing, which only my wife knew about. And Drew knew it too, because he kept watching me with headphones, listening to Tony Robbins all the time and falling asleep with affirmations. And anyway, I came home from an audition, and Drew said to me, how'd your audition go? I said, it went really well. He said, what do you want to do for dinner? I said, you do what you want. I said, I just want you to know that I'm leaving. I'm leaving in 2 weeks. I'm not doing this anymore. That's when we had the argument. And I went to my room. I called my wife. I told her, I said, I'm coming home in 2 weeks. I already made my plane reservation. And when I said it and hung up the phone, got very emotional. I was nervous because I had no idea on how to get into the speaking business. I had no idea, but I knew that's what I wanted to do. I only knew, and I told my manager and everything. And I started booking myself to make a living as a comedian while I was still pursuing the stand-up thing. It was mind-boggling. So I said this prayer before I left LA. I said this prayer, and the prayer was, um, I know this is what I want to be doing. I know nothing about the speaking business. And if this is the right choice for me, please send me a sign, send me something or someone that can help me get into this business. That's all I'm asking. I let the prayer go. I'm on a flight, sitting there in first class from LAX to JFK, and I'm sitting next to this very distinguished looking man with a little heavy set, with a perfectly trimmed whitish gray beard, thick whitish gray hair, three-piece suit, and he's looking at me like this, and I'm saying, shit, please, God, I don't want to talk to anyone right now. I don't want to, please don't let him talk to me. Please don't let him talk to me. And all of a sudden he goes, I'm really sorry. And I said, yeah. And he goes, I just feel like I've seen you. I know you've, maybe it was TV. And did I see you on? I said, maybe you saw my Showtime special because it was previously aired about 3 weeks ago before that. And he goes, oh, I saw you on Showtime. You're Steve Rizzo. I said, Steve Rizzo. He goes, yeah, oh my God, you were so funny. And he's like, what are these people hitting me in the shoulder? And my wife and I thought you were hysterical. And he's going on and on. And I conversations over. We talked about comedy for a while, and I went into this solemn state again. And about maybe 10 minutes later, he said, I'm really sorry to bother you again. He goes, but I sense that something is wrong. Are you okay? And I said, well, it's very perceptive of you. And I opened up to him. I said, I want to leave stand up and I want to do something else. And there's something else that I want to do. I know nothing about, but I know I'm supposed to do it. And I said, and as a matter of fact, I, I said a prayer before I got here to send me someone, a sign that I'm doing the right thing that can help me with this business. And he said, oh my God, what is it that you want to do? And I told him, I said, I guess I want to be what you would call a motivational speaker. And all of a sudden, Rob, he starts laughing harder than he was before. I mean, he's slapping his knee. He's going, this is unbelievable. And I'm thinking he's laughing at me because I'm
Uh-huh.
leading a successful career. And I said, well, why are you laughing? He goes, my friend, I'm the answer to your prayers. I'm the president of the National Speakers Association.
Oh my gosh.
And he goes, and I'm going to help you get into this business if this is what you want to do. He gives me his information. I get home. And before I left, he said, listen to me. And in a week and a half from now, there's a big workshop, and National Speakers Association has 3 workshops a year and then a big convention. And this was in 1993, 94, when it was huge. Thousands of people would go to the convention. The top speakers on the planet, speakers bureaus that book speakers. It was big. She goes, but there's a workshop in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Omni Hotel. You meet me there. Make your reservation, meet me there, and I'll introduce you to the powers that be. I was nervous. I went there. We had dinner together. And then the next day, he introduced me to all the board members and other very, very influential people. And the irony here, Rob, is that there I am thinking I'm being brand new. They don't know me. 90% of them knew me. They either saw my Showtime special or at a comedy club in their area or a theater in their area. Some of them knew me. I was a celebrity before I even became a speaker. So then when I got home, I have a message from Vanna Novak, who was on the board, and said, Steve, you impressed everyone at the workshop. We'd like to know 6 months from now if you would like to come to Washington, D.C., where they're having their big convention and speak to 200 of the country's top speakers on how to add humor in their presentations. And I just went, oh my God. I said yes. I had no idea. I didn't even have a speech prepared, but I had 6 months to prepare it. I did it. I kicked ass. The name got around, and speakers agencies, bureaus started giving me their business cards. They didn't have phones then, iPhones, cell phones, or anything like that.
Right.
Rob, I was getting booked before I even had a speech prepared.
I guess that was a great sign, huh?
Oh, yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit? Wow. So
but here's the thing. Here's what people need to know. I could have ignored that guy.
Yeah.
I could have said to him, and I came this close. I could have said, excuse me. I said, but I need my privacy now. I could have squashed that seed possibility from taking root and prospering into the incredible event that happened. I could have just said no. That would have squashed the seed possibility, and I never would have known who he was or what he could have done for me.
So you were this close, you said. You were this close to saying, sir, I want my privacy,
yeah.
right? What do you think? I got a feeling I know the answer, but what do you think was the guiding light, the guiding principle? What was it, the energy that stopped you from saying that?
Well, he continued talking. He goes, I'm sorry, it's just that I think I seen you. It was on TV. It was on TV, right? And then all of a sudden they just started talking. I said, you probably, and I thought maybe he would shut up then. I said, maybe you saw me on my Showtime special. That's when he started hitting me, laughing. Oh my God, and he was a big jovial guy, you know. And all of a sudden I just started talking. And I told him a little bit about, what it's like to be a comedian. And that's when I went to my zone again. And 10 minutes later, he asked me the other question, and it just manifested that way. That's all.
Yeah. So to me, it's like the Holy Spirit was telling him to keep talking to you.
Exactly. That was it.
Yeah,
but that's how prayers are answered. People think when the prayer is answered, they think it's got to come from, they think it's, like you're going to see a light coming from the sky. You're going to hear the voice of God. No, it doesn't. And God has spoken to me in so many ways. That's how I wrote. See, we're getting in on stuff right now that I didn't even think we'd talk about. My book, Conversations with Bob. It's the greatest. This is why I was put on this planet. You know why I wrote this book? First of all, Conversations with Bob. Bob is God.
God, I knew you were going to say that.
Okay, it's a dialogue between two people. Bernie and Bob. Bernie resides in the negative zone. Bernie is me. Bernie represents every person on this planet who feels that their life isn't working on some level or another, and that's everybody. Everybody goes through shit in life, and Bernie was blaming God for his life not working. I'm not going to tell you how the story is, but they meet. And he, and I won't tell you how he gets the name Bob too, but it's very funny. The book is hysterical. It's a dialogue between two people. But the reason why I'm bringing this up, it's the way prayers are answered. I got divorced after 34 years of marriage. It was my choice. It was the most difficult decision I ever made. It was killing me. It was ripping me apart because my wife was just a wonderful, wonderful person. I'm not going to get into the details as to why I left. There's definitely reasons, the biggest reason I would have stifled my authentic self. I just knew that I was supposed to go somewhere. I was being called to do something else. I got so upset about it that I couldn't even live in New York State. I moved to California, and I had friends all over the place, and they set me up in an apartment on Marina Del Rey. Stayed there for 2 years. It was then that I faced my demons. I was on Venice Beach at about 4:30 in the morning. It's not a safe thing to do. And I lost control of my emotions. And I started cursing at God, screaming, screaming. And I'm daring, you know, I dare you to show yourself. I dare you. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I fell down in the sand. If anyone would have heard me, they would have called 911. I got up, I stopped crying, I took a step, and I asked myself, what the hell am I doing here and what's wrong with me? And then I heard something on the next step said, you know why you're here and you know what's wrong. You're just too caught up in your own drama to find the answer.
Jeez.
This was in the middle of my speaking career now. I'm supposed to have my crap together. I'm here to tell people how to live a healthier, happier life. And I was miserable. So I felt like a hypocrite. But when I heard that voice, now when I say it's a voice, it wasn't a voice like you were watching the Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston. It wasn't that type. It was my own voice, but I knew it was God talking through me.
Yeah, I know. I
Why
know.
did I just say that? Why did I say, you know why you're here? You're just too caught up in your own drama. Then I took another step. I asked another question and another answer came. Then another question. And I kept going. And I said, oh, I gotta get home. I ran to my car. I go to my apartment. I take out my laptop and I start asking another question and another answer. I was there for hours. I was exhausted. I went to my room. I slept for like 12 hours. I woke up and I clicked on my computer and I started reading what I wrote. And I didn't remember writing half of it. And I just kept going. And before long, I said, oh my God, I'm talking to God. This is the higher part of me answering me, which proves God is within. God isn't in the sky somewhere. God is within. And
Within,
anyone
yeah.
can have this conversation. And that's what the book is about. So then all of a sudden my imagination set in, my sense of humor started kicking in, and all this stuff just started. And I was just I'm laughing my ass off at at the same time I'm crying my eyes out at revealing, being very vulnerable, revealing parts of myself because Bernie is me, but
Yeah.
also God is me.
Uh-huh.
So it was two of me, the Bernie and just trying to find this balance on to live your life the way you're supposed to. And Bob has all the answers. He's the antithesis to Bernie's fears and negative emotions.
That's powerful, Steve, and thank you for sharing. I mean, I think everybody needs to hear that, and I hope they take that and write that down because it's so powerful. Because you ask those questions, you're asking God, and God is within, and I think that's awesome. And yeah, in my mind, I'm like, I'm emotional because I think we've all been there to some extent, maybe not to that degree, but I think we've all been there. So I got two questions for you. One, is it okay? Because some people think it's probably not, but is it okay to get mad at God?
Yeah, as long as you don't stay that way.
Right,
Of
exactly.
course it's okay because you can't offend God. I don't. There are a lot of Christian people, and a lot of people say you. I don't think you can offend God
No,
because God
you can't.
always forgives, always.
Yeah.
And you might have to go through the same crap again, but the healing begins when you start beginning. You've got to take that first step. As a matter of fact, when Bob first meets Bernie, and he realizes that Bob is God, and Bernie just breaks down, and Bob knows he's on the verge, and Bob pulls it out of him and goes, "It seems like you're a little upset, Bernie." He goes, and Bernie breaks down. He says, "I am upset. I'm upset at you. You never answered my prayers. You know what I went through. Do you have any idea what it's like to have the talent, to have the gift, to succeed, and you fail over and over again? Do you have any idea what it's like to see your peers have everything that they want, and they get all this stuff, and you're still stuck with no? Do you have any idea?" And he goes, "You let me down over and over again." So Bob is listening, and Bob goes, um, "I did answer your prayers, Bernie, but you pray with the same attitude you have about your life." and yet you expect a miracle. And then Bernie goes, of course I expect a miracle. Isn't that what you do? Isn't that your job? So then Bob says, and this is the key for your viewers to listen to. Bob says in a very profound way, have you ever heard the saying, God helps those who helps themselves? And he said, yeah. He goes, you have any idea what it means? So Bob goes, never mind. I'll tell you. No, you don't have any idea of what it means. It means that you have to meet me halfway. Bernie, you can't pray for peace of mind for any given day and then get in your car and start cursing at everyone in traffic. You can't pray for success. And then after 2 weeks, you don't see success happening. You lose faith in the prayer. You lose your belief. And then you blame me. You have to do your part. I can only do as much as you're willing to do for yourself. And that's really the foundation of what the book is about. You have to meet
Wow.
God halfway.
Do you speak about this in your speaking engagements? This piece right here?
Yes, this is the next transition I'm going through right now.
Yeah, Steve, because I think this is powerful, man. I
Yeah,
do. And I
yeah,
feel your energy and I feel it. I mean, because I think that's the absolute truth.
yeah. And not
Right?
only that, it involves it's the law of attraction. God is the law of attraction. It's the laws of the universe. It's
Yeah.
it's what you people hear when they listen to Joe Dispenza and all these people. You know, it's it's what you're saying to yourself. It's your thought process. If you're praying for something and you have all the confidence as you're doing it, and a week goes by and you're still doing it, and then 2 weeks go by and you're still, and then all of a sudden you start saying, I knew this wasn't going to happen. You have no idea on how things are being set in place, the when it's supposed to. You're just supposed to do your job. The how and the when takes care of itself. But people
Wow.
can't do that. People can't do that. They have to be in total control. And when their control isn't working, they don't believe in God anymore.
You just said something key to me. Like they people have to be in control. Over the last few months, I've been telling a couple friends of mine, like I did this notion or this feeling. It's like you got to let go of something, Rob. You got to let go of something. And I'm like, I ask myself, what is it that I need to let go of, right? And control is an easy one to say, but the higher thing is the ego. Let go of my ego because my
Oh
ego
yeah,
wants to be in control, right? And so I'm I struggle with that here and there, but I'm recognizing instances when it's like, okay, Rob, why is it that you're frustrated? Is it your ego or what is it? Right. And if it's your ego, let it go. Just let it go. Let it
yeah.
go. Right. And so I love this conversation, Steve. Like I had another question for you. You said like at times you were on stage, you're talking to people, but you're struggling with this stuff. And so you mentioned earlier on a conversation about perspective. Did you ever take the perspective while you're talking to an audience? Instead of saying I'm talking to an audience, I'm talking to myself in front of an audience.
Yes, I do in many ways. And I also say to them, by the way, I don't have it together. I still go back into that negative zone every now and then. We all do. But it's just that now I'm at a point where I'm aware that you call it the ego. And in my book and conversations with Bob, uh, Bob, who is God, calls the ego the big mouth inside your head
Hmm.
because that's what it is.
Yeah.
And you have to be aware of what you're listening to. It's the awareness that sets you free. Because as soon as you become aware that you something's not right, the negative self-talk, I call it self-curse talk, uh, stops. I call it self-curse talk because you're casting a spell in your life.
Right.
It stops. And then in that moment, you're in a world of infinite other possibilities where you could choose to shift your way of thinking that are more conducive to get the peace, the success that you desire. It's you have to keep doing it. If you've ever seen the Dalai Lama when he's interviewed, um, he's a master at knowing he's going into that negative zone because as he's talking to him, I want you to watch my eyes. If you ever talk to the Dalai Lama and the reporter might say something to him that just sparks something, he'll do this real quick. He'll blink his eye like that. He's so in tune to the awareness, he immediately goes into it and comes out of it immediately. He does that.
It's like a
In other words,
zone.
yep, that fast because he's a master at controlling the big mouth inside his head. And I think that just blows me away.
So, Steve, how do you improve? How does Steve Rizzo increase or improve his awareness?
You keep doing it. It's just until it becomes second nature. I'm
Like, so
almost 74 years old. So, you're talking about a lifetime of thinking one way. It's not easy. It's
mhm.
not easy. And the frustrating is that some people do and they go, wow, this works. And all of a sudden, a week or two or maybe more goes by and you go back into that zone again. And then you start cursing yourself. You can't accept it. You are going to be set back. You are going to do it. But the key is becoming aware of it. Don't berate yourself. Just say, okay, start again. And you start again. And before you know it, that big mouth starts spewing out more optimistic things rather than I told you so, or rather than you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you better be careful. Remember the last time you tried to do something, it didn't work and it hurt you. Play it safe, stay where you are. That's what the big mouth does.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it always spews out crap from your childhood. Like the guidance counselor still comes into my head. It's still there. It never goes away. It never will.
So
But
how do you manage that? How do you manage that
by
today?
becoming aware, by
Yeah.
knowing
Yeah.
that it's there, and then I also laugh at it. I'll have a conversation with it and say, "Nice try, tough guy, but I'm in charge here." You know, there's a power within me that can knock the shit out of you anytime, and that's the way I talk to it. And then I start laughing, and it's gone.
Yeah, yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff, Steve. So real quick before we wrap up here in the next 10 minutes or so, you've brought now you're speaking, you're doing this keynote speaking, but you've brought some of your comedy into the stand up and into the
Oh yeah,
keynote speaking. So that's got to still give you the juice of the comedy while in the same breath helping people through personal growth and development.
yeah. That was my biggest challenge. It was tough. It was very tough because when you have an audience laughing after I'm talking about the beginning of my speaking career, I had them laughing for the first 10 minutes. I was nervous. Can I be serious for the next 15? Or am I good enough? And will the audience be adaptable enough to go from this energy to this energy? And they do. It's a matter of having confidence in yourself. And
Yeah.
some of the compliments I'll get from people when I'll get a testimonial. Never has my group laughed so hard and learned so much in one sitting. Thanks for the ride. You know, so yeah,
It's that confidence piece because I think, I think current confidence, I think it can be a learned skill. And because you don't wake up and say, I'm Mr. Confident, right? So this wheel of confidence that I remember working through. It's like, the first thing is if you have an idea, okay, you got to take action, right? And when you take action, you're going to succeed, or there's going to be, and I'll use this term, perceived failure. Because if you fail, the next thing is to learn a lesson. And if you learned a lesson from it, did you really fail? Right. So that's why I say it's perceived failure.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perceived failure. Yeah, yeah.
And then so you learn that lesson, and then you take that lesson, and now you develop a skill, and now you have confidence in that skill. And
You're
it's
going to
about
screw
taking
up.
it.
You're going to make
Yeah.
mistakes. Mistakes are
Yeah.
do-overs. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can learn from people in history. Look at Thomas Edison. Over 10,000 tries to create the light bulb. And
Yeah.
some sarcastic reporter said, well, how does it feel to fail at making a light bulb over 10,000 tries? And Edison looked at him and goes, I didn't fail. I just learned almost 10,000 ways on how not to create the light bulb. Finally,
Yeah.
I got it.
And
You
that's an
know?
attitude thing. That's an attitude piece, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
Because that's
yeah.
part of your stick about the
It
attitude,
depends.
right?
It depends on the mindset that you create. What are you saying to yourself? When you're trying something and you really think you did it right, then you find out you didn't. Are you going to go on that rampage? I knew this was going to happen. Every time I try to do something, it never does, never works out. I'm always going 2 steps up, 5 steps back. Everybody has what I want. When you do that, man, you're screwing yourself. That's
Yeah.
self-curse talk. You're casting a spell on your life, and it's much harder to get back. Instead of saying, okay, that didn't work, I thought it would. That's disappointing. But I know I can do this. There's something within me that can make this work. Who can I go to that can help me do this? What is it that I'm doing wrong that could get me to do it right?
Yeah.
It's empowering questions you ask yourself.
And other people. You find other people too, right?
Oh yeah.
Along the
Oh
way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Steve, where else in your life? Usually, I ask the question, how much more chiseling you have going on in your life? But the question is, I'm going to tweak it here and say, where else in your life do you think God needs to chisel you?
Well, that's a great question. Not to be too hard on myself, because there are still times when I just think I'm not doing enough, or I'm not. And there have been times I know when God was telling me, "You did it, let it go, let the universe take over now." I'm always, my micromanaging and just letting it go and saying, okay, instead of saying, because I still get it. Should I not have said that, or should I not have done this? Maybe I should have done this. Do it. Do whatever you think you thought you were supposed to do. Let it go. Let it take root and manifest the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're a guy that's been typically hard on yourself throughout your life.
Yeah, and patience.
Yeah,
Lack of patience.
yeah.
One of my funny prayers to God is, God, give me patience, and I want it now.
Steve, first time I did a prison speech. I was in prison talking to 20 guys, right? And you get nervous, you get the butterflies. I was a
Oh
baseball
yeah.
player. Before you go to bat, you get the butterflies, right? So I get the butterflies, and I'll never forget. I used it the first time in prison. I mean, 20 guys in front of me, and I got my back to them initially, and the guys get ready to introduce me, and I say this little prayer. I said part of it before we even went on live here today. And I said, Lord, let the words come out the way they need to be spoken. Let them be heard the way they need to be heard. And if this doesn't work out, it's your fault, not mine.
So that's funny, because God has a sense of humor.
Yeah, yeah.
He created humor.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
Right.
so it's we just got to go do it, man. So hey, I hope everybody enjoyed this. I hope people share this podcast because I think there's a lot of valuable nuggets here. And Steve, I don't know if there's anything that you to give away, or if you just want if people want to connect with you, how do they contact you?
They should
How
go
do
to
they
my
get you out on the
website.
stage?
Go to my website, steverizzo.com, www.steverizzo.com, and you can scroll down. I suggest that you purchase the book Conversations with Bob. You go to all my social media, because my social media person is kicking butt big time. So just Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, I'm everywhere. And just look at the clips that are coming up every single week. Articles, read my articles on my blog, on my website. Yeah, that's how you can find out what it is that I'm doing. My
And
YouTube
I've
channel.
watched, yeah, I've watched some of YouTube stuff, and it's funny. It's funny. It's great, and it's empowering too and encouraging. So, Steve, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Any final words?
No, I appreciate you having me. I think I love the way you do things. You ask really good questions. I appreciate it.
That's not me. It's the Holy Spirit asking
There you
them.
go. Well, I'll thank the whole. Thank you. Wherever you are.
Well, look, thank you, Steve. And until next time, everybody, let's go get chiseled.